2, 1. Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic comic book creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our two new guests, Amanda Deibert and Kat Staggs. We're here to break down the Powerpuff Girls Halloween special coming out from Dynamite Comics October 23rd, 2024. We'll be dropping that link in chat as well. Welcome to the stream, you two. How are you doing this morning?
Good.
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, Amanda, we have you down. Rocket and Groot, Star Wars, Batman, Scooby-Doo. We were talking back stage about Darkwing Duck, Hot Wheels, He-Man, just a whole slew of things that I grew up loving. Kat, you as well, Crosswind with Gail Simone, John Carpenter's Tales of Halloween Night, Death of Superman, Star Wars and Star Trek, Wonder Woman, and that piece was actually inducted into the Library of Congress as well. So, like, holy crap, this is awesome. I know you typically both get probably asked, you know, when did you start creating? I want to know, like, what pushed you to become creators? We can start with Amanda first.
Well, I've always been a storyteller. I mean, like, even when I was a little girl, I used to write stories to, entertain my little sisters, my younger cousins. Like, it was always very much a part of who I was in all kinds of different facets. When I was in college, I was studying acting and screenwriting. I spent a few years as an actor, was always writing as well. It's just always telling stories has always been a huge part of who I am. I can't even imagine doing anything else.
And what about you, Kat?
Yeah, I've pretty much been drawing my entire life. So I just, I had various art jobs, but I've been doing this like over 20 years now. So this is all I know.
It's all you know. And acting and script writing seems like two different forms of storytelling. Which was harder for you?
They're just different. With acting, it's like you're embodying a story that someone else has written and then making it your own and really looking at it from one character's point of view.
Mhm.
Whereas when you're writing, you're kind of creating the whole world and getting into all the characters' point of view. I think, writing gives you more power and control, which I really like.
So you two have a bunch of titles that you have collaborated on. When did the first collaboration happen? What was the title?
So the first collaboration we did was actually a web comic that was called Hot Mess. And this is early when we were dating, and I started writing these web comics that were basically just embarrassing stories about my life, like real true stories, like a time that I went hiking and then I tried to go off the hiking trail to use the restroom, but then I saw some more people coming down the trail and I was worried they were going to see me. So I backed up, but then I fell off a cliff with my pants around my ankles. These deeply relatable stories that have happened to everyone.
Yeah.
We love in there. And then Kat would illustrate them. And we did that for about 2 years. And that was our first, and then our first like professional big collaboration was actually Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman.
That's so cool. Was that Wonder Woman 77 or?
No, that was before Wonder Woman 77, right? Yeah. So it was a bunch of one-off Wonder Woman stories. So they had different creative teams and everybody got to write like a standalone Wonder Woman comic, and we were paired up for one, and it was really fun.
That's so cool. So what does the collaborative process look like between you two? Has it evolved greatly at all, or has it kind of remained the same since the start? Kat, we can let you take the wheel on this one if you'd like.
I mean, it's evolved in that, we've gotten better over the years, but I think our communication is much better when we work. We don't, it always has been very smooth when we work together. It's really great to work with Amanda. I enjoy it a lot.
Do you guys ever find yourself maybe struggling to come to an agreement about how like a panel should play out or how a page should work?
Not really.
Not really, no.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of back and forth, right? Like when I'm writing something, I'm like, does this make sense to you? And then she'll weigh in.
I'll draw something. I'm like, does this read correct? Does this read how you think it should read? And, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's always been a very smooth process.
That's very cool. What does the writing process look like for you, Amanda? Do you have like any sort of playlist you like to listen to, or I mean, maybe background noise that you play when you're doing it, or how does that look for you?
I can't do anything with lyrics because I get distracted.
Hmm.
So it has to be, I'll usually try to find something that's instrumental, but whatever I'm working on. So if it's like horror, then I'll use actually like a lot of like John Carpenter's compositions, like without words in them. If it's something more upbeat, then I'll try to find that, like maybe like a soundtrack from a film that matches the vibe, or just like a music style that matches the vibe. I like having music, but I get really caught up in lyrics, so I can't do
it,
that.
it can be tricky. It feels like our minds are our greatest tools, but also our worst enemies. Like, we're capable of such greatness, but all it takes is like a catchy lyric, and it's like, all right, I'm thrown off.
Right.
So, Kat, what does the art process in that same aspect look like for you as well? I mean, do you like to have maybe any like reference material pulled up, or do you kind of just draw from memory? Like, how does that work for you?
Um, both. Both. Uh, references just as important as picking up a pencil sometimes. Um, but some projects have way more research than others.
Hmm.
Um, and usually when I get a script, I'll go through it and and then the first step of the process for me after reading script is um researching things that I could pull from. Um, and then building the layouts and then working with materials like that.
Absolutely. And before we dive into everything sugar, spice, and everything nice, of course, let's talk a little bit about, maybe some of the past titles that you worked on, some of the larger franchises. Do you guys ever feel maybe like afraid to take something on? Like, because with the large crowds of like just the geeks and nerds that surround it, like doing like an injustice to it?
I think
Mhm.
I used to be like the first time I did Wonder Woman, I was really scared. I was like, "Oh, this is a beloved character with a huge long history.
Hmm.
I hope I don't mess it up." But then now, and I felt that way a few times with a few different things. The first time writing Star Wars, or even like it just with a lot of things. And then luckily now, and this is probably true for Kat as well,
Mhm.
but uh, I've done I've been lucky enough to do so much big IP that is, like, beloved by so many people, that now
Hmm.
it's like I just have to dive in, because I know
Mhm.
that I'm always going to be looking at it from the point of view of, I wanna give respect to the character. I wanna give respect to the reason that people love the characters and what makes them great in the first place. I'm never trying to, like, do something so different and weird that I've changed fundamentally who and what they are.
Hmm.
And then also that I can't please everybody, and that I have to write the story that I wanna tell with this character in this world and do the best job that I can, and that's all I can do.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you're trusted with the script for a reason. You're obviously awesome at what you do. They have trust in you. So sometimes you got to have trust in yourself. Kat, with you and, maybe your art style, do you ever find any trouble adapting it to fit, different franchises?
Well, um, not so much until last year when I started doing Darkwing Duck covers, because that is so not even remotely in my wheelhouse. The last 2 years with between Darkwing and, Powerpuff Girls, those are both in styles that I don't normally work in, so it was very challenging for me, um, to not over render.
Hmm.
I had to make myself stop. So, um, yeah, but it's great though, because I feel like I've gotten things out of both of them that I can then bring back into what I normally do. Um, so I think both of which came out in a positive.
Hmm.
Hopefully everybody feels that way.
Yeah, it's wild, I guess, to think about like how detailed your art can be, and then you almost have to like simplify it to fit like the Powerpuff
Mhm.
Girls or Darkwing Duck, and you probably want to be like, okay, well, I want to add more detail here and there, but it's like maybe I shouldn't because this doesn't fit the style quite as much. And speaking of Powerpuff Girls, guys, right here is a link to pre-order. This is going to be dropping in stores and on your shelf in October 23rd. So get those pre-orders in. It's going to be 40 pages, which is one hell of a book. That's almost double the size of a normal comic. So, how do you guys feel about diving into this? I remember being a kid. I remember watching this show, being obsessed with it, thinking Professor X is Samurai Jack because they look alike, the crossover there, and just everything. I mean, some of my favorite villains, Mojo Jojo, him, of course, iconic. The Gangrene gang, Fuzzy Lumpkins, all of that. I mean, what was your guys' initial thoughts when you got hit with this?
Oh, so excited.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was thrilled.
Yeah, we're both huge fans. Our daughter is a massive Powerpuff Girls fan. I mean, she
That's so cool.
Started school this week, and her backpack is Powerpuff Girls, and her water bottle is Powerpuff Girls. Her birthday party this year was Powerpuff Girls themed. So yeah, it's thrilling for everybody in the house.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And this story is set around Buttercup winning a fun contest. A costume contest hosted by the Townsville Gazette. So sounds like we can see some really cool costumes in it as well. How did you guys approach the initial start to this? Like, Amanda, what did your scripting look like? Did you have to watch a couple shows to kind of get in the groove, or?
Totally. I watched some Powerpuff Girls to kind of like get back in the groove, and then I was trying to think of something that would be fun for Halloween. So it's the whole thing. Buttercup is trying to write a horror comic, and so there's a lot of stories within stories. So she's trying to write her own while going through a series of spooky things where she and her sisters are. So we've got a lot of horror film homages for the adults that are going to pick up on things, like the kids are going to enjoy the story that's going on, but there's a lot of fun Easter eggs for people that enjoy like horror films, for example.
Yeah.
And was it challenging to write something that was going to be, for the kids, but also something that the grown-ups can kind of appreciate as well?
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I really like. I don't ever want to do something. I write a lot of content for kids and middle grade stuff. I also write, things for grownups. But I always want to approach it from a point of view of just telling like a really good, fun story, and obviously making it age appropriate. But I never want to feel like it's like dumbing it down for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the idea of making like a fun, entertaining story that everybody can enjoy, which I hope that we've accomplished.
She nailed it. She nailed it.
Absolutely. And Kat, for you, getting back into the groove of drawing these characters, what did your regiment look like? Did you kind of just like draw them over and over until you got the style, or how did that work for you?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I found they had a lot of rules, and so I tried to follow those rules for their, their like style guide type stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was just a matter of practicing. Yeah.
That's
And I think
awesome.
I hope I achieved it. I feel all right about it.
It looks great.
And with, we had 6 seasons from 1989 to 2004. This is like the first big revival, if I'm not mistaken. Like the comics are kind of like bringing back the Powerpuff Girls after such a long hiatus. So that has to be such a surreal feeling to be a part of that. What was some of your favorite parts of this, like creating this comic, like without spoiling anything?
I think I really like there's because of the series of comics that Buttercup is trying to write, Kat gets to play with several different art styles in it. And that for me was really fun to get to see and kind of play with. And then there's the humor, and there's, they have some of my favorite villains of all time. So like just getting to throw all that in there was so much fun.
Yeah. I honestly just really enjoyed drawing them officially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was the, OG Powerpuff Girls fan. I've got a tattoo from 1999. So it's like, I love and adore them. So getting to draw them is just fantastic.
So I got to ask, which one of the three is your guys' favorites?
Buttercup is my favorite. I think I'm more like Blossom, but Buttercup is my favorite.
Yeah, I too like Buttercup.
Yeah, I would say Blossom for me. I feel Blossom definitely is my embodiment the most. Was it challenging to pull from a series that has so many episodes in it, like kind of like fitting yourself in the continuity of it?
No, I mean, I find that helpful because it's like then you have a lot to draw from, a lot to be able to, I always try to make sure that I have like the voice and the tone of something if I'm working on an IP that already exists, making sure you have the voice of all the characters and the tone. And so having that vast world of things to immerse myself in that I find pretty helpful.
So is this going to be the only Powerpuff Girls title that you guys are working on, or is there maybe something in the future that could spin off?
It's the only one we've been asked to do so far, but we would absolutely do more.
Yeah.
Dynamite, if you're listening, be sure to sign them on right here. Here is a link for you all listening to pre-order. Get those pre-orders and add them to your poll list. This looks like such an amazing read. And I love the concept of it as well. Like, it's like almost like Comicception, right? A comic within a comic. That's such a cool idea. So with that aside, let's begin. We'll start kind of wrapping things up. What are you two working on in the future? I know we talked about John Carpenter's Tales of Halloween Night. Is there any other titles that we can expect from you two?
Yeah, so we have another story in John Carpenter's Tales for Halloween Night that comes out, during this Halloween season. I've also got another Rocket and Groot Tales of Terror that will be coming out with Scholastic and Marvel.
That's so cool.
Also, I assume before Halloween, probably in the next month or so, and that'll be in the book fairs, which is always like my favorite. And then
I've got a Halloween Night spin-off book that is a collection of previous stories and new stories from myself and Frank Thierry, which is Brooklyn Stories, Tales for Halloween Night, Brooklyn Stories. That comes out in September. And then I just, besides Powerpuff Girls, I just got asked to do something else that I can't discuss yet.
Oh,
that I think is coming out in by Halloween, I think. So
hey, well, we do have both of their social media handles in the description below, so be sure to check those out. Be sure to follow them both to stay up to date. And when that news finally gets dropped, you can be one of the first to hear it. So I always typically ask for a piece of advice and then what the creators are consuming outside of creating on the show. So for anyone, and we'll do this with your respective roles, for anyone that's maybe stuck with writing or stuck with art, and they're just having a hard time pushing through that mental barrier, as two individuals who have just absolutely killed it in this field, what would be your biggest piece of advice you could tell them to help break them through that wall?
My weirdest piece of advice, but something that always works for me, is for some reason like getting myself into water. Like if I feel stuck on something, if I get in the shower, especially if you get like halfway through washing your hair, like it'll come to you. I find that if I step away, if I do something in my body, if I go swimming, take a shower, do something to kind of get my head in a different space, I find that very helpful. I'm constantly like working on several things at a time. So having a creative side piece. So like something that you're working on and then something that maybe is a very different genre or medium, if you're working on a comic script, maybe also have a screenplay or a novel or just something in a really different genre. Because I find that sometimes working on something very different, the back of your brain is still kind of working on your other story and it'll just kind of shift your perspective. So those are the things that help me.
Yeah, I tend to do similar. If I get stuck and I forget how to draw, because we all have those days, I usually will if it's really bad, I'll just stop for a while, but usually it helps to do some kind of sketch just for me that doesn't have rules or a script or anything I have to follow. I just draw something, and that will usually shake the cobwebs and I can get back to what I'm doing.
Oh, that is awesome. So last but not least, what are you guys consuming outside of creating? What TV shows are you watching, books that you're reading? What's kind of been on your list lately?
I mean, our child takes up the TV the majority of the time. So Powerpuff Girl,
Adventure Time. Yeah.
Hey, great shows though. I mean, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, she likes really good shows.
Yeah, but it's we were just like, this is how behind we are. We just finished watching Veep. Because we're super, super behind on things. And also like we're waiting for, the new seasons of stuff to start on TV. And I've always got several books going. I'm reading like the 10,000 Doors right now. And gosh, I don't even know, like several. I always try to have, it's the same as trying to write different things. I always have several books going that I'm reading depending on my mood.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is awesome. So I really appreciate you two taking time out of your schedule to come talk about Powerpuff Girls with us today. Everyone watching, right here is that link for the third time. Be sure to get that pre-order in. Share it with your friends if you're unable to. And always make sure, just spreading that word. It's 100% free. It costs you absolutely nothing. And you're going to have a friend who loves Powerpuff Girls. So you're doing a disservice by not letting them know about this. I hope you all have a fantastic Wednesday. Most importantly, though, keep it geekly.